My name is Harry von Handorf. I live at 2499 Fountain Place, Lakeside Park, Kentucky, 41017. My number in the military was 856-1282. I'm being interviewed right here at my home in the living room.
The address, please.
So October,
Excuse me, we need the address.
2499 Fountain Place, Lakeside Park, Kentucky, 41017. On October 1943, I was drafted into the Seabees. And they sent us up to Camp Peary.
Harry, excuse me, was that unusual for someone to be drafted into the Seabees? How did that work? I mean, usually you hear people being drafted into the Army. How did it work during World War II?
Well, I'll tell you what happened. I asked for the Navy. And when I was, when you after your physical, you're faced the Marine man and then the Army man and the Navy man. And the Marine man said, "We can't use you." The Army man says, "We can't use you." I said, "Why, there's something wrong with me." Because the Navy man, he says, "Turn around, let me see your legs." I turned around, he said, "You're in the Navy." And
What was the significance of that? You have any idea?
well, yeah, I found out after I was in there for a while. But then I went back home for a couple of days and reported back for duty. The guy called out about 6 names, including mine. So, "Are you Seabees? Stand over here." I said, "I'm supposed to be in the Navy." He said, "Navies are part of the Seabees. You're in the Navy." So I had no problem with my legs. I had varicose veins in them. They gave me some shots in there and that shrunk them up and I was all right. So, yeah, I was drafted right into the Seabees, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Most of the guys volunteered. And what would happen is they volunteered. If they were electricians, they got a rating already right away, Or if you're a carpenter, you got a rating, But when we got drafted, you didn't get a rating, you start at the bottom. So,
Interesting.
yeah,
Thank you.
okay. Where should I go to now?
Go ahead and continue, please.
From where I left off?
Your basic training. And
Yeah, after that they put us on a train, sent us up to Camp Peary, West Virginia, where we completed our basic training. After basic training was over, they gave us a 10-day leave. And the leave started 2 weeks before Christmas. So we went home, and I spent a week, 10 days there at home. And that's when my wife and I got engaged. And then we had to leave to go back to camp 3 days before Christmas, which was kind of sad. Because we got to camp, and Christmas Eve, if we were all in bed, the lights were out, one of the guys turned on the radio and started playing Christmas music. A couple of guys were sobbing right there in their cots. They felt so bad. So after we finished our training there, they sent us down to Gulfport, Mississippi, where we joined the 117th U.S. Navy Seabees, which was just forming there. And there was every kind of a skill in there you could think of for construction work. Carpenters, electricians, painters. In fact, we even had our own chaplain there for a while. We had our own dentist, our own doctor. So we were a pretty complete outfit. While we were there, I got a call from Vera. She called to say that she and Mom and Dad were coming down to visit us, spend the weekend. So that sounded good. So I went uptown the first chance I had and found a nice motel. I talked to the girl behind the desk and I said, "I want to reserve 2 rooms for this coming weekend. My girlfriend's coming down to visit." She said, "You want 2 rooms?" I said, "Yeah." I always said her parents are coming along. She said, "Oh, I see." But we had a nice weekend, and they finally went back, had to go back. So shortly after that, they put us on a train, the whole our works, and sent us up to Newport News. We got on the ship, the Fremont, and after a couple of days, we took off down the coast. We ran into the doggone storm you ever saw. I never saw a wave so high. And the ship just rolled and tossed, and I thought, my God, is this the way ocean travel was always all the time? But in fact, the first meal I had there, I was climbing back up the ladder to get up on deck. There's spaghetti all over the ladder. So quite a few guys were sick. But once we got down the coast, a little distance, and got down near Florida, in the Caribbean there, it was beautiful. It was the sun was shining all the time. It was warm. And the water was just as smooth as a lake. So we kept on going, and we came to the Panama Canal. And we had to go through the Panama Canal, which I thought was nice. Because how many people get to see the Panama Canal? So we got through there, and then we took off west again. They never told us where we were going. We traveled for about 10 days and pulled up to this island. Here was Pearl Harbor. So we were very happy about that. So we pulled in the harbor there, and it's been 2 years since the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. But there was about 3 ships laying on their side there yet. They never got that all cleared out. But it was nice there. I was on the group that did the maintenance work around the camp. We made roads and sidewalks and small barracks. And then in the center of the Pearl Harbor was called Ford Island. And most of our group spent their time on Ford Island rebuilding it with barracks and buildings and whatever buildings they needed. And we enjoyed it there because we worked 6 days a week. And every Sunday we were off. So on Sunday, we went to church in the morning and hitchhiked our way downtown. Most of the time, we went out to Waikiki Beach, which is about the prettiest spot in the world. And it wasn't crowded at all, just a bunch of servicemen around. And at that time, there was only 2 hotels on the beach, Royal Hawaiian and another one right near it. Now there's about 22 hotels there. So they ruined the good old-fashioned Hawaiian scenery. But still was a nice place, and sometimes we spent the days going up into Honolulu and going to bars and the restaurants and movie houses. Sometimes just walking around looking at the scenery. So shortly after that, well, I guess it was about 6 months, I guess. They put us back on the ships again. We headed out west.
Excuse me, do you recall any of the names of the ships or the numbers that you were deployed on?
I couldn't tell, no. They were
Just curious.
just sure, you couldn't tell.
Sure.
No. So I keep on going?
Sure,
Oh,
absolutely.
yeah. Like I said, they never told us where we're going, so we headed out west for about the whole 10 days. We finally came to this island near Saipan. And the first night on the island, I was put on guard duty at the dock to make sure that material off of our ship get on the right truck and wound up where our camp was supposed to be. Well, about 2 o'clock the next morning, I heard popping noises coming from way down the road. And I saw flashing lights. And one of the Marines was hanging around there. I asked him, I said, "You guys got fireworks here?" He said, "Fireworks, hell, the Japs are bombing the airfield again." So we had just taken this island from Japanese about 3 months ago. And the Army engineers already started to build a double runway airport down there. The Japanese, every chance that the moon was out and the sky was clear, they come there bombing the island. Of course, after a while, we started bombing their island too. They come from Iwo Jima. So we were bombing each other back and forth. And that went on. till we wind up Christmas Eve. And we were all down there at, we were there for a couple of months by that time. We were down there in our little outdoor theater watching old movies. And all they had a screen set up and a projector, and we sat on sandbags. And it was better. There's all there was to do around there. And right in the middle of a show by the air raid siren went off. So we always had to hang around outside of our barracks when the air raid siren went off and watched fighting down there at the airfield. But this time of night, the Japanese were bombing the harbor. There's quite a few ships out in the harbor. I think they were getting ready to invade Iwo Jima. And the Japs must have got wind of that some way or other. But there was a excavation right across the road from our barracks. It was about 3 feet deep and about 75 feet square. So we all huddled down in there and watched over the top and watched all the fireworks right out there in the harbor. Because our camp was over a hill overlooking the harbor. We weren't too far away from it. And we were doing pretty good there. We every time we hear a jet plane go down, we say, "Hey, we got another one." But there was so much anti-aircraft shooting going off from these ships, and a lot of pieces of metal floating or hanging around and hitting us as they hit the ground. So 2 or 3 of us thought there was a crawl space under the barracks. We thought that we'd dash across the road and get into that crawl space. So we just reached the road, and this Jap must have missed the harbor because he dumped those oil bombs practically right on us. We heard the first 1 or 2 bombs hit. We just threw ourselves face first down on that gravel road. It's a good thing we did because the last bomb went off in the big gully, and all the shrapnel from the bomb went right over our heads, hit the barracks we were heading for. And but nobody got hurt. And from what I understand, in the 2 barracks across the road, across the gully, there's nobody in them yet. They were empty. But 2 of those barracks were pretty well shot up. So that was our Christmas Eve. And then Christmas Day, we had just completed our chow hall. A nice big chow hall. We heard there was an orphanage on the island. So some of the children were the children of the Japanese used to have it. Some were the native Chamorro children. So we told them to send up a group of children to have our Christmas meal with us. So they sent a truck up with about 20 children on there. Well, their ages were all anywhere from 8 or 9 years old to about 16 years old. And they could not speak English. We could not speak their language. So just by motions and smiling, we communicated with them. In fact, one of the little girls sat right next to me in the chow hall, and I enjoyed that quite a bit. So after the meal was over, the children all got up to sing. They sang real good. They were well trained. They sang 4 or 5 songs. The last song was Auld Lang Syne. Of course, we didn't recognize their words, but we recognized the tune. And some of the guys were wiping their eyes, I tell you. It was kind of sad. But it was a great Christmas. I'll never forget it. So, wasn't too many months after that the Americans invaded Iwo Jima. They finally took the island, and that was the end of the bombing of our island, which we were very happy about. We could sleep all night. So, there was something to watch the B-29s. They got the big airfield finally finished up there, and there was 2 runways, and when it was time to bomb Tokyo, well, the B-29s, had a lot of them there. They took off 2 at a time on the runways. They circled the island till all the ships got up in the air, and they take off for Japan. And they come back, I think it was later on the next day, and you'd see a big long line of B-29s, 2 lines coming back, heading for the airport. And some of them were, engines were smoking, and some of them got holes in them. You could see where they got hit by flak. In fact, one thing I thought was nice, one plane come along from the side, and he was really bad shot up. So one guy pulled up and let him get in line when the plane got landed. So I thought that was a pretty nice thing to do. But that went on for some time. And then right next to our island was another island, a small island. It was flat enough for an airfield. There were some B-29s over there. And that's where the Enola Gay, which if you've ever heard, was the first plane to drop an atomic bomb on Japan. So that plane took over from that island and bombed Japan with the atomic bomb. So it wasn't too long after that the Japanese surrendered. But right before the Japanese surrendered, while I was coming back from my job, and I got a message that my brother's ship was in the harbor. Excuse me. So the next day I got off of work, and I hiked down to the harbor, got a boat right out to his ship. I climbed on board the ship, and there was a group of sailors right there, and I looked at him, I didn't recognize him. I started walking down the deck, and the voice said, "Hey, Harry." I turned back, and there was my brother. I left home, he was in high school yet. And here he was 2 years later, he was a grown-up man in the Navy outfit. So he was there for about a week. And we got together a couple of times, which was real nice.
Excuse me, would you identify your brother, please?
Dick?
Okay.
Oh, did I mention his name?
You didn't mention
It was Dick, yeah. It was Dick, yeah. So he was there about a week or so, and he had to take off and go somewhere else to meet a convoy. So we were building a power plant there. And we had that power plant about 95% finished. And the Japs surrendered, they just took us off that power plant job. I guess somebody else finished it. And I had to work up at the water purification plant for a while. But after the Japs surrendered, things were entirely different. And that was in August, I think. It wasn't until December I finally got to come home. It took so long to get all those guys out of the Pacific getting back home. So I got home the day after Christmas. So I missed 3 Christmases in a row. But that's my story, and thank you for listening. Oh boy, never talk so much. I hope it's all right.
Okay, go ahead.
Wherever I was with the Seabees, while I was in Pearl Harbor, I was with a camp maintenance unit. And all we did there was build sidewalks and roads. We put up several small buildings. And that was the extent of my work there. But when I got out on Saipan, I was put on construction work. And it was just rough carpenter work. We built a lot of Quonset huts and warehouses. We built.
Excuse me, with these Quonset huts, were these the galvanized ones?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
with the metal.
Half dome?
Yeah, we assembled those. Yeah.
Okay.
And they were one story and 2-story.
2-story Quonset huts.
Oh yeah, they built the carpenters built a framework underneath, and built a floor. And we put the metal part up on top.
Mm.
Yeah. So we built chapels, we built chow halls, and just a bit of everything.
At that point in time, were you fellas using any plywood?
Yeah, we used the floors were plywood.
Because it was relatively new then, was it not?
Yeah, we made our own concrete blocks, and there was one group that set up the concrete blocks and put the metal
Rebar in there or something?
bars all along them,
Right.
Then we put in the floor. It's a plywood floor. We put that in, and then some of them we just put the Quonset huts right on there. But some of them were 2-story. The carpenters came back and they put up the sidewalls, and we assembled the Quonset hut up on top of that. It's made a 2-story Quonset hut. But that's mostly what I did, built Quonset huts and warehouses. And in the last 4 months I was out there, after we quit construction work, I worked at a water purification plant, where we took water, come out of a spring out of the side of the hill, and we would put it through a filter, and we injected shots of chlorine gas in it to kill the germs. And that water was purified, ready to drink.
Okay, earlier when you were saying that, I was thinking maybe you were using seawater, you were processing seawater, but this is
No,
actually fresh water.
This is spring water coming out of the hill, yeah.
Okay.
The spring was something else. It ran day and night, never stopped. And we used most of the water out of it, not all of it. Some of it just went down the creek. Yeah. But yeah, I like that kind of. I'm glad I was on the Seabees, because in the Navy, I mean, you're on a ship and you're on that ship and that's it. On the Seabees, we could. The day was off, we could go around the islands. We could do the sightseeing. But it was a good experience.
Do you have any contact with any of the organizations with the Seabees now, post-war?
We had a reunion, about in St. Louis, about 12 years ago, I guess. I went to that reunion, and there was about 50 Seabees there with their wives, and there was only one guy there was a good friend of mine. The other guys, they looked so much different when they were older and dressed up in suits that she just didn't recognize them. But I met one guy there. We spent a weekend together. And one of our trips out west, I met one of my friends out in Los Angeles, a CB friend. And that's the only ones we ever met, yeah.
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 Quite often you go
Yeah.
to him.
And I guess that's about it. He growing up, like you see, he's taller than I am, and that's why I didn't recognize him. We spent about a week together, and we enjoyed it very much.
Wasn't there a story went along with this about beer or something?
Oh yeah, Dick mentioned. Go ahead.
No, you.
Dick mentioned that he learned to drink warm beer because there's very little refrigeration on the island. A lot of times we drank warm beer, so that's where he learned to drink warm beer.
Mhm.